chapter 4 in this masterclass is on the third platform and how to prepare it. So Elliot, can you first explain to our viewers what is it that you mean when you talk about third platform?
Well, I think if you look back in history, we started out with this approach where a core business application was tied to a mainframe instance, and you had great control. Everything was well planned out and understood, but limited flexibility. Then we moved to this approach that said, if I'm creating a new application, I'm going to tie it to an application server, or I'm going to tie it to a database server. And it was very quick to scale out and grow, but you got a massive sprawl of applications, which was very difficult to manage, very costly to manage. And the key problem was that those applications were tied to a physical piece of kit. And now when we design applications, we're really looking to remove that reliance on all of that physical infrastructure and say, how can we create applications that effectively are decoupled from that infrastructure and float above it? And they have an awareness of where they're running, they reconfigure themselves so that they can have the mobility to run in whichever part of your cloud infrastructure is the best target. Perhaps on a Monday they run in the private cloud, perhaps by Friday they've moved to the external part of your hybrid cloud. So we're looking for applications that can run in an environment which has to scale massively and have that flexibility to run where it needs to. I mean, if you look at information from Gartner, for example, they predict there will be nearly 26 billion devices on the Internet of Things by 2020. And the only way to achieve that scale really is to decouple the core applications from the infrastructure that they presently run on.
Richard, can you give any examples of what this third platform means?
Yeah, I think one of the key things, so the scale is the biggest element. The ways we've done things before does not work in the scale mode of what we define a third platform, and certainly for the Internet of Things. But I think also there's is this ability to decouple the services that are within an application. And what we mean by that, let me bring that to life for you for a second. I had a customer who had a very traditional transactional line of business application, very similar to what most people have in their estate, and this was revenue generating application. However, it was tied to old hardware, to old structures. They couldn't scale it, but they also didn't dare touch it. And so they were faced with a very lengthy task to rewrite the whole thing, to put the whole thing onto this new third platform. And that's putting it too simply. The way they actually went about it is in 3 weeks, they moved the application onto the hybrid cloud. They then started saying this database doesn't need to change, because obviously the way you mitigate risk and cost is by changing only the bits you need to change. They then said this database doesn't need to change, I'm going to leave that in my on-premises, it's got customer confidential data. The application servers, I want them on the traditional multi-tenant public cloud, but the web services I want to rewrite in this massively scalable way. And with a hybrid cloud, you can do that. That's one application brought to the cloud in 3 weeks instead of being rewritten over a year with all the added cost and risk, and you just rewrite the individual components. That's another key factor for what this third platform is all about.
Is scale the biggest issue, would you say?
And the reason why as well, the cloud will be the foundation. Because why the scale is the biggest issue, I would say, because it's the explosion of the data with the big data concept and the explosion of the mobile. Everybody's got a mobile today, even not only one, but 2 or 3 mobile. And it's really how you can keep up with billions of users. And I do believe that that's the reason why the scale is the issue in any IT environment of today. It's cannot keep up with that. It's fundamental to change and to transform. And I think most of the companies now, they understand that and they're going to do that.
Yeah, and what we find in real world scenarios are that financial organizations that want to adopt this approach, if they start off by looking at purely the infrastructure and the technology first, then it leads to problems, it leads to more risk, it leads to potential downtime for the business units. And I think it's very important that when we're considering how do you move to the third platform, that the IT department demonstrates credibility to those business units. They need to find a way to say, we truly understand what your business applications do and how we're going to impact them, or preferably not impact them, as they move to the third platform. One of the key challenges in this area that we've certainly observed with major banks, for example, is that you can be looking at sometimes 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 different business applications. And there needs to be a very fast process to understand which of those are the mission critical applications, and based on that knowledge, what's your approach to transformation for each one of those?